I'm a hustler, baby.
It's time for Hustle Her Podcast. I'm your host, Deshay Caines. Hustle Her is all about inspiring women through real life experiences that have helped to mold and develop not only me, but my guests into the entrepreneurs and leaders we are today. If you're an enterprising woman determined to succeed and looking for a bit of motivation, a bit of tough love, and some actionable takeaways to be the best you, girl, you are in the right place. Hey guys, and welcome back to Hustle Her Podcast. As always, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, make sure you like this episode, but also make sure you head over to the page and you subscribe. As always, go to www.hustleherpodcast.com to sign up to be a VIP listener. We give some really cool giveaways to our VIP listeners, as well as being able to get all of the episodes a little bit earlier than everyone else and access to the show notes as well as the blog. Super excited about my guest today. She is the amazing Miss Tina Laws. She's also an accredited intimacy coach and a relationship expert. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
Yes.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to start off with a few rapid fire questions.
Sure.
So ask a question, first thing that comes to mind, tell me. Okay? All right. I'm happiest when?
With my family.
All right. What do you do on a plane after you put up your suitcase and you sit down? What's the first thing you like to do?
Talk. Talk. My husband say it awful. Whoever's sitting with me.
Why? You nervous?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't like to fly?
I don't like flying.
Okay.
You
All
would
right.
think so, but yeah, I don't like flying.
Your skin is amazing. Tell us the skincare routine.
Soap and water.
That's it?
Literally, soap and water.
Oh, I wish that was my skincare routine. Not at all. Somebody takes my coins every month. Okay. When you got your first big paycheck, what do you remember spending it on? When you spend your money yourself?
Probably something for my children or my home.
Okay. All right. Who's your closest friend?
Well, my husband is my buddy, but that's the pillow talk guy, everything, right? But my closest, I would say, my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom and my children, and then there's amazing friends that I have.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. What does love feel like?
Oh my goodness, love just feels. I'm on a podcast, right? So, but love feels connected, committed, respectful, kind, sexy, loving, just understanding, connecting with somebody where you don't have to talk. They understand, they get you. That's love. That's my husband and I's love.
I love that. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts? What do you like to listen to?
Myself. I don't have much time to listen to anything. So when I get those times of silence for me, that's exactly how I spend it, in silence.
Okay. And then what's a hidden talent?
I have many of them, but I'll talk about one that I would like to have as a hidden talent.
Okay.
And I would love to get in the boxing ring.
Okay.
I love boxing.
Really?
Love boxing.
Okay. All right. So you go to all the fights and everything?
Well, not all of them, but I need to. Yeah.
Okay.
But I watch them. And when that's the only thing that I get an adrenaline rush. Nothing else moves me but that.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. And before your husband, growing up, who was your celebrity crush?
Well, before my husband, I didn't have any celebrity crushes, but it was always 50 cents.
Really?
Yeah. Girl, I'm a gangster behind the scenes. 50 Cent and Wesley Snipes, to be honest.
Okay. Well, Tina, you learn something new every single day.
Absolutely.
All right. And then finally, who's your cut match team?
Oh, St. George's. Who else?
All right.
And I grew up in a house of old Somerset.
Interview's over. I'm joking.
I knew that's what my family, when I was a young child growing up, everybody was Somerset. My mom, my brother, my sister. And because my dad, which he lived in St. George's and still does, I said, I'll stick with my dad's team, St. George's. So that's my team.
All right. Lara's finally got a person on her side right now. There you go. There you go. Literally, everyone today has been Lara's been 3 against 1 all day.
Got you.
There we go. So you mentioned your dad living in St. George's. So tell me about your time as a child. What did you like to get into? What were your sports? What did you like to play with?
I was never into sports.
Really?
Never. You know what I did? I did a lot of playing with my dolls, cutting hair. That's one of the things that I do really, really well. That's another hidden talent. I can do your hair right now, weave, braid, cut. Yeah, expert. Yeah. I even went to school for it. That's something people probably nails. I did all of that. But when I was growing up, it was more so just playing with dolls and being inside, being with my mom, learn how to cook. And those type of things. Redecorate my home, or was changing around my bedroom. That's what I did.
Oh, I love changing around my bedroom. Or like my house. I love a little change around. Yeah. That's what I did.
I was always a child that always believed that I didn't fit in.
Why?
Because I didn't laugh when other people laughed. I didn't associate in clusters like other people did. And so now that's a gift. But at that time I was like, am I odd?
Yeah. Okay. And so as that was as a little girl, so when you went into high school and you mentioned about going to cosmetology school and stuff, what made you want to do that?
Because I always liked hair. I liked beauty. You know, if anybody knows me, today I have this haircut and next week I'll have weave. I try to weave. That didn't work out for me. But I like changing hair. I like hair. I like makeup. And I don't wear a whole lot of it. But I just like beauty. I like transforming people. I like people to be transformed. Okay. That's the one thing we can do overnight.
Yeah.
Change the way we look our hair and change our face if we wanted to.
Yeah, Black woman superpower.
Absolutely.
No, I absolutely love that. And I love that we're embracing it more as well. You know, like back in the day, it was like, oh, I don't want to do that. Or maybe I should wait until it looks this way or that way. And if that's what I feel like doing today, that's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that.
That's our power.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. So in your bio, you have listed as an experienced relationship and intimacy consultant and an accredited mediator. Walk me through how you got to these things.
So let me just start with this. One of the things I didn't say was from very young, I was solving people's problems. Oh my goodness. I don't know how I even got in that position of everybody turning to me. And even when I was a teen in a relationship, which we'll probably talk about a little later, that was unhealthy. Everybody, for some reason, thought it was the perfect couple.
Wow.
And so they all came to me. You know, how do you this? How do you that? You're committed and so forth. But I think when I went away to school as an adult, I remember praying and saying, Lord, please take all these people from me. Everybody just leans on me for these relationships. So that's something that I wanted to run away from. But once I got into school and I found that was happening continuously with people I didn't even know, I said, okay, Lord, what's really going on here? What's your reason in all of this? So I got certified many, many years ago, before people were even talking about coaches or relationship coaches. I just did it. Life coaching and stuff like that. So one of the things that I decided later on, which is now, is do what you're good at. Do what people turn to you for. Do what your heart desires. Do what you're most passionate about doing. Do what you really do and do really well. So that's why I do what I do. And becoming an accredited mediator is, a lot of my professional career has been in the prison system, right? Because I have a master's degree in criminal justice. And working within the prison, I learned so much about how to manage conflict in situations. Not that with our offenders, or with our colleagues alike, right? Because keeping it real here. And so one of the things was that I learned this is really, really necessary. Right? And so I went and got accredited, and here I am.
Yeah, I love that. So how does that weave into the relationship side of it, like mediating? Because I'm assuming that you talk to couples as well with the intimacy. How does the mediation pair with that?
So funny enough, every relationship, most of the issues or challenges you have is called conflict, right? So why not? But just so I clarify, I'm a mediator that specializes in the working environment.
Ah, okay.
Right? Same techniques, just different people, different situations and scenarios. But that's how they fit in for relationships. Any situation, anybody has a breakup or a problem, it's conflict.
Yeah, it's usually conflict and people not knowing how to talk through it. Yeah, that's usually
all
the
based
case.
around communication or the lack thereof.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So under construction came to play because of what?
So in 2016, a girlfriend and I, we actually were sitting in our office. I was working as a probation officer at the time. And she had birthed her business. And I said, you know, what am I doing here? What do I? And one of the things that I did, and I did quite often, was I used to work with a lot of women, professional women, in abusive relationships. A lot of people didn't know it. I just did it because that was something I did. And me being a survivor, that was just second nature to me.
Yeah.
And so it was probably a year in, or maybe a couple of months in, I said, I need to take this full time because I was, one of my clients, and if she listens to this, she'll know, one of my clients, she worked at an exam company, I'll say that. And she was a leader of a team. And she had came to me and she said, Tina, why don't you do this full time? What is wrong? Why? And I said, I don't know. I never thought about it. What's the calling for this? So I started doing domestic violence for professional women and families because clients had said to me, Tina, we need you. We need you as a private entity.
Wow.
And so I said, okay. Because I knew myself as a survivor, I had never went to a charity. I have nothing against a charity, right? But I just felt us Bermudians were very private. What goes on in our home stays in our home. That's what parents or grandparents or great-grandparents say. So that was a service that I figured I'll offer to professional women in these roles.
Wow. And so you created this safe space for them to
Absolutely.
feel comfortable coming to you to have these conversations. So sometimes, the best people to talk to are the people who have been through different scenarios and they know how to kind of guide you through that. So you mentioned that you're a domestic violence survivor. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you survived?
Oh, my goodness. Well, thankfully, and I say thankfully because I was a teen, right? I was a teen, I became a mom, and one day I just decided, watching my son's actions one time in school, I said, this is time. I need to get away. Because what we don't think about sometimes, we just look at, we love somebody, we think this is the perfect relationship. We have children. Some people don't, but if you have children, you want to grow up and keep your children with their parents, right?
Yeah.
Together as a family. And because my mom was a single mom, that's something that I wanted.
Yeah, definitely.
Worked, lived,
I get it.
died for, right? But I think it got to a point of where I saw my son displaying certain things that only he could have displayed because he had seen.
Yeah.
And so that was my breaking point for me to say bye-bye. And I never turned back.
Wow. So dealing with domestic violence as a teen, how did that impact your family, your immediate family? Like, did they know about it? Or was that something you were hiding?
I was hiding. I definitely didn't tell anybody because I knew that if I would have told someone, because I still thought I loved them, and I knew, no, that wasn't love. It was just a teen boyfriend, right?
It's amazing how we look back and you're like, that wasn't love.
Yeah, and it was, what a joke.
Yeah.
But because it's funny enough, while I was in that relationship, I didn't want anybody else to not like them. While I was trying to figure it out myself.
Got it.
Because I knew deep down that I wanted to stay if only he. And it was always if only he, right? And so it got to a space of, how many times are we going to say if only he? But for me, it was my son. But for other people, it could be a broken arm, chipped tooth, black eye. I mean, I had one of them too. But it could be many things as to why people stay. But I think when we get past that stage of if only he or if only she, because women are abusive too, right? If only he, that was the breaking point for me to say, walk away. But also for me to say, as a teen, you know what, you need to be a representation for your son. You need to be a representation for your son. But the point you did ask, because I could get real deep in
It's
that,
okay. No, please explain.
I never said anything to my family because, one, I wasn't sure when I was going to be fully finished.
Got you.
And each time I was finished, I was hoping they would get help. Heavens only knows from where, because we didn't even know where to go at that time, right? And as a guy, that's something we never talked about. And Bermuda seldom talks about that, right? But that's prevalent, right? So for a guy needing help. So I didn't say anything because I was hoping he'll change. And the other thing was I just knew that he might be in a lot of trouble if I told my mom and my brother what would have happened to him. So I just kept it to myself.
No, I get that. Yeah,
I just kept it
100%.
to myself. But later, after walking away and sharing bits and pieces with my mom, bits and pieces, I found out that she too was a survivor.
Wow.
And so I wish now, looking back, I would have said something because she could have told me what I can tell my daughter now and or son. But at that time, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to say anything because I was hoping it would work. It was just so many things you think about. We could save each other. We got each other's back. We love each other, all of this, and my son. So you think and say, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything right now until I'm sure. And it really wasn't until 2017 when I went public in Royal Gazette as a result of a client, going public to say I was a survivor, that I told everybody. Nobody really knew. And it was probably 2 weeks before that, my son laid across the foot of our bed. And I said, I've been asked to tell my story. And I said, you don't know this, but this is it. What is your thoughts? And once he gave me the clear, I went full speed ahead.
Wow.
So I had kept it a secret, and I've still kept a lot of things just to myself, but I kept it a secret for so many years.
But
right?
why? Why do you feel like you needed to do that?
Back then, because I think nobody talked about it, right? Much more people talk about it now. But when you look at breast cancer, you look at HIV, you look at autism, and the various things that people talk about that they have now. We do all sorts of walks and Relay for Life. Everybody's talking about it. So other people are comfortable with coming on saying, I had breast cancer, I had this cancer, I had prostate, or even prostate for men. They're talking now. But at that time, you very seldom heard any conversations around it. And the conversations, if you did hear those conversations, it was more like, shh, keep it a secret, or listen, we've been married for 100 years, and we just let that happen. All you have to do is A, B, C, and D to make things work. Just keep quiet and do what he wants you to do, basically. So nobody really talked about it. And then you think about this person was in college, so he had a reputable family, per se, right? And so you don't want to embarrass people. So everything's a secret at that time. So I'm still at it, trying to process in my mind, how can we make this public? For everybody to know that it's okay. You was in the situation, it's okay. And no, it's not okay to be abused. No, it's not okay to think that somebody's going to change. You're not crazy. But what is okay is that you get help. What is okay is that if you stay for 10 years, you still can be provided with support while you stay. Yeah. Many people don't talk because they're not ready to walk away. But a lot of my clients, they stay. Sometimes they go back. They leave and go back. So my support is supporting them while they stay. My prayer is that they walk away. Yeah. Because you think about, what if he pushes her and hits the end of the table? What if that one day where he kills her, or she becomes a vegetable, or he becomes a vegetable? But in the interim, how can we better help people? How can we better support them? How can we better be their ear when family is sick and tired of telling you, just leave? Yeah. So a lot of what we hear from even agencies is just leave. It's not that easy. And for the most part, a lot of people don't talk because you tell them to leave. So I'm that person. Yeah, absolutely. So if you look back now, right, and you think of that time in your life and everything that you had going on, what would you, in advice you would have given to yourself during that time, what would you have said to your younger self in that moment to kind of maybe have not gone as long, or just what advice would you have done in that time frame? One, trust yourself. We don't trust ourselves because at a young age, we really don't know who we are. So we just trust what we think other people think that we're supposed to be doing. Got you. The other thing is find ourselves some hobbies. Find that thing in which we would like to do for ourselves. Find that thing that you could advance in. Go to school, pick up a hobby. Find something that you really love to do outside of any relationships. Yeah. Okay. And that's, I think, when you have something else to kind of hold on to or to look forward to, you're living for not just that person, you're living for you as well. So I'm assuming that that's the guidance behind that. Absolutely. Okay. And I think that's what happens to many of us, not just young teens, but relationships, period. You get in relationships and people becomes their life. I love my husband. I am in love with my husband after 100 years, but guess what? He's not my life. Yeah. You understand? So the things in which I want to do, I focus on them. And I can do that too because I have a supportive husband, right? But had he not been supportive, I would still do it because that's just who I am now. Got you. So I found things that I love to do outside of, I'm married, I'm going to do everything with my husband. Yes, I do. However, what's that thing in which I enjoy doing? What's that thing that keeps me up sometimes, most nights? What's that thing I could do as an independent woman so I can be proud of myself as an individual person? Yeah. No, I think that's really important because sometimes, we see it, especially, as we all get older and in our friends and things, people who are very just focused on, and there's nothing wrong with being a mother and a wife. Do not get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But what we then see is that morphing of when the children get older and they move out of the house or they get a divorce, the struggle to know who they are, who you are. So how do we help women, or what advice would you say to women who are in that position right now and they're happy, right? Like the wife, mom, doing all the things, but might not necessarily know who Deshay is or know who Tina is. What would you say to help them to not be in those positions should, the children are going to leave regardless. Right. But if divorce were to happen, what advice would you give them? So one of the things I do is try to prevent divorce. One. But what I often say is that we can't tell people what to do. Yeah. Right? Fair point. And so what I usually would do is ask them, what do you see for yourself? What are some of the things in which you would like to do or always dreamed of doing, but you never done it because you became a mom, like me, for one? And why not do it? Let's get together. Let's work this out. How can we get you doing it? Right? Just try, even if it's a course or something. Try it and see how much you like it, and then let's just go full for it. Let's advance in it. So I would say to people, one, you don't have to divorce unless it's really abusive and not healthy. But I say, one, find out who you are as individuals, because that's where we get lost. I was a teen mom, so all I knew was motherhood. All I knew is survival. All I knew is that I had to do what was best so that my son and my daughter that's coming behind me, they could see a great example, which you don't usually see until they're now adults. But that's all I knew. I knew I had to survive. I knew that I was mom. And people say, who are you? At that time, it was, I'm a mom, right? And so what I would say to people is that once your children are out, empty nester like us, we're empty nesters, but once your children are out, it would be good if you could do it beforehand. But if you don't, find that thing in which you always thought, I wonder if I could be an interior designer. I wonder if I could cut hair. I wonder if not everything's your gift. And you figure that out too. But I say, do some research. Just venture into some of the things in which you like to do. And yes, some couples do things together. Absolutely. But you have to find that one or two things that you enjoy doing by yourself. That way you can feel like you've accomplished something on your own, not just being a mother or a father, but on your own. Who am I now? Right? I love that. So I would say find that thing in which you like to do. So that's usually what I do with clients. I find out where they're at. What do they want? And then when we find out what they don't want, then we try to get you there.
I love that. So tell me how you met your husband.
Oh, my goodness. You know how I met my husband?
No,
Girl, sitting at a bar. Listen, my girlfriend, Margie, she had invited me out, right? And she said, come on, let's go. And I had cut off my ex, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And she said, you're becoming a hermit. Just get out. And I had started going to church.
So familiar.
I had started going to church, right? I started going to church, and my grandmother's 7-day Adventist. So I grew up 7-day, and I grew up Sunday, but that's another story. Anyway.
That's a lot of church, girl. That's all right.
My goodness. I hope somebody understands that.
I grew up the little day.
So my girlfriend said, come on, let's go out. And I said, okay. So it was her and another girlfriend. And we said, let's go. We went Anchorage. It's closed down now. But anyway, and I think it's Stars or whatever it's called now. But nevertheless, we went. And anytime I went out, I was always to myself. Guys always say, we don't want to talk to you because you're friends. Whatever. So anyway, I was sitting there. And funny enough, I never ever do this. And my girlfriend would tell Mom, she'll tell anybody. She's actually told the story many times. I was sitting here at the bar. And I never sat at the bar, but I sat there, it was real quiet. And I said, let me order a drink. Okay, let me do this. Now, I have been in church, hear me. I have been in church, and I said, oh, this looks real cute. Could I get a Bacardi and Coke? That's what it was. And I saw this guy walk in, and he was over to the end of the bar. He walked in looking around. I said, who are you looking for? So my girlfriend said, hey! She knew him. So I said, who's that?
Uh-oh.
And she said, who's that? You. Hey, brother, come here. And we just sat here, started talking, and she was sitting in between us. I don't even remember her moving. She said we was like this in front of her. She said, let me just excuse myself. That's how I met him. We just connected. So she knew it was it because she was at my wedding as well. But she knew because I had never asked somebody to introduce me. And I don't even know. So even though we met in a bar, I had been praying prior to that. That God find
let the Lord use you in any way. It doesn't matter where it is.
That's why I say, God uses it anyway. But that's why we can't discriminate. We can't judge people.
You sure can.
Because God uses things. God works how He wants to work.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
So what happened was, from there, I said, before that, I said, Lord, find me somebody for my son and I. Find me somebody that knows me. All those things. And you're full speed ahead. That's everything I prayed for is who He is and more.
I love
that.
So
even though we had little trials and tribulations in the beginning, more so because I had been in a relationship and he never knew, even that I was coming broken. So it was me and my relationship that had to do a lot of healing and change and really addressing some of those things that I brought from the previous relationship. But overall, His patience, I know He loves me. Because I'm a piece of work. So I was a major piece of work back then. So he hung around. So yeah, that's it. That's how I met my husband.
I love that.
Love him, and I said the other day, I still love him. Everything about love him. I knew that's God.
Yeah, absolutely. And who cares about where it was? But if that's who your person was meant to be, that's who your person was meant to be. And that's how that goes. Yeah, so you talk about, every relationship has issues, right, or challenges that you work through and things like that, and you're an advocate for not divorcing, obviously extenuating circumstances put
Yes.
aside, that we have that assumption. What are some of the things and tools that couples need in order to not get to the point where they're they're having a divorce because of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. One of the things I find is that we become so comfortable that we think it's okay to just be comfortable. And I said it like that because, for instance, we think it's okay. You meet your husband looking like that. How beautiful you look sitting there, right?
Oh, thank you.
And then, 5 years in, sometimes one for some people, but 5 years in, he don't even remember who you were. He's looking in shock like, who is this? Now, everybody, like my husband don't like makeup. He loved my hair when it was long, and so I do what I like with that. However, you know, we have to keep ourselves appealing, but not just for him, but for yourself, right?
Got you.
And so when you start going downhill, that speaks a lot about what you're going through, what you're feeling about yourself. So when you don't feel as positive and as confident, as pretty about yourself, how are you conveying that to your husband? So now you're not as sexy as you used to be, looking in the physical appearance, and neither do you feel it. So what do you think is going to be transferred to your husband?
Never thought about it like that.
Right. So people say to me, my goodness, you got this color hairdo, that color. I crack a joke and say, well, my husband's got this one today, that one today, that one tomorrow. Right? But the reality is that's just how I try and keep the spark, right?
Yeah.
Not just for him, but for myself. So if I feel good, if I look in the mirror and I say, girl, you want bad, mama. Oh, you look good, right? I do that. Even though my husband don't like lipstick. He prefers I not cut my hair. I look in the mirror, honey, you look good. He sees me like that. You know, because if he don't, somebody else will. That's a given. Yeah, but let's keep it real.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in nobody else.
Yeah.
And likewise, him. Somebody else, him too. It's called the real world. And I think sometimes we get lost in TV. We get lost in TV. But I think, you know, that's one of the things that we do. We become too comfortable. Sometimes we take each other for granted. Right? And so it's so many areas that we have to focus on or not in our marriage. And I think sometimes one of the things I find too is that we include, maybe our career takes over. That's one of the reasons why I work with leaders, right? In these areas, there's women. But our career takes over. That takes precedent, right? And our family. Sometimes we invest so much in telling everybody, even our friends, telling everybody about what we're experiencing, and that your husband or wife hasn't a clue.
Wow.
Right? And so we're looking for everybody else to fix these relationships rather than us being present in our relationships.
What is your view on people who talk about their relationship issues to other people?
Well, I would say...
And not professionals, like to their friends,
just
yada, yada,
babble on, and you heard how I say babble on. Because that's what it becomes, right?
Yeah.
It becomes, especially because most of us, I'm not going to say I had never done it, most of us who do that and do it often, we seldom take the advice. The reason we keep doing this is because we're not taking the advice. And you're telling the person the same thing over.
Yep.
So I would say now at this stage in my life and my career is that, you know, we have people like me and other people who you can support, that can support you, confidential, and could give you sound advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Frank, think about it. When you talk to your friends and family, the heart's in it for you. So the minute you say something that sounds like it's going against you or hurting your feelings or all those things, they'll be crying with you. Automatically, it's like, I don't want him for you. I don't like him. And you see him, you're telling him off. And that shouldn't happen, especially if you're married. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, and then once you've forgiven them, they haven't.
Oh,
and so then it's tense.
Not.
It's just tense all over the place.
Tense all over the place. And the reality is, to me, that's like you're being deceitful. Yeah, because does your husband or wife know you're sitting or talking to he or she about your personal things and information that you haven't even talked to them about or worked out?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're only giving one side of the story as well, right? So the advice that you're getting back is not a well-rounded opinion.
It's not.
Because
and if you know your friends, you should know too that I also often say to my friends, you want me to tell you the truth or do you want to hear what you want to hear? And they say, well, Tina, I'm asking you because I know you're going to tell me the truth. I said, well, because I know how you are, you have to stop A, B, C, and D. That's why he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens too. But like you said, we would tend to take our friend's side more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it's difficult to kind of look at it from a holistic perspective when you're invested, right, in the relationship from a friend perspective or a sibling or whatever. But I think, you know, as relationships morph and grow and people in your life, they can tend to try and be balanced. Yes. But yeah, I do think talking to a professional is definitely the way to go. 100%. And I think it's also, I know in the Black community for a really long time, seeking professional help was frowned upon, or you didn't talk about it. Absolutely. But I think we're getting to a better place now where people are seeking help more so than they ever did before. So that's really helpful.
It is. And I find a lot of men, like I started working with a lot of women. I work with women, but I work with men as well. Because men are calling to say, well, Tina, what is wrong with my wife? Or what do I need to do to fix this? Or how can we fix this, right? Whereas before they didn't. But what's happening, I think, now, since the pandemic more so too, I think people realize, listen, I don't care who it is. I just need somebody that's going to help me. And if somebody else refers, that's how I got a lot of clients. If Sally said Tina's great, let me try it. If it don't work, it don't work. But let me try it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, because people are looking for the additional help. And I do agree with you with COVID as well. I think that people were losing their mind being stuck in the house with people they didn't like. So that we spend a lot of time together, right? So let's talk about, I guess, the pivot in your career to becoming an executive director and the role that many people aspire to. But can you share with me, I guess, how important this achievement was to you personally and professionally at that point in your life?
Sure. Well, from a young girl, like I told you, I was always the odd one out. But I knew I always wanted family. I knew I always wanted to save us women. I don't know why I feel like we got to be saved, right? But growing up back then, and I grew up back at town, Happy Valley, and I'm sure your family could relate. Absolutely.
Yeah,
not far from your
family.
Right? I saw a lot. I saw a lot of conflict. I saw a lot of fighting. I saw a lot of mixed match of families. I saw a lot.
Yeah.
And so me being that person that was always on the side, standing and learning from other people that seemed like they really knew him and I wasn't, it gave me a great opportunity to do a lot of observing other people. And so I saw those people that this one didn't look right, that didn't look right. I said, well, wait a minute, something's not right there. Even though I couldn't figure it out back then, I always knew, growing up through teens, an adult, and into that role, I always knew I wanted to help save somebody. So that was a role that I figured wasn't specifically that place, but that was a role in which I wanted to accomplish.
Okay.
Because I knew that would be the role in which I can fix and save everybody. And I prayed for that for years, but then I realized that that wasn't what God had called me to do. He called me to do that. He just didn't call me to do it there.
Okay. Yeah. So at what moment did you realize that your demanding career was taking a toll on your marriage and your well-being as well? Because you put in your bio that you were having some physical challenges during that time too.
Yeah, I think 3 months in.
Wow.
I was there for 12, and that was a stretch. But 3 months in, I realized that it was changing who I was as a person. And one of the things that for me is important to me is that at home, at least I have that safe space at home.
Yeah.
At least in spite of what goes on outside of my home, I know I can go in, I can laugh with my husband, he could fix it, he can give me a hug, and I feel okay. That became a change.
Got it.
That was more so I was becoming somebody else. I wasn't sleeping and all those things. But so that started impacting my marriage. But so much so that as months went on, I was like, I was hoping he could fix it for me. You know, I was talking to him and it's like, what can I do about this? What can I do about that? How can I handle that? You know, and it became tiresome for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But because I was stressed out about it, I wanted him to fix it. So that was stressful for him because he is one to usually help me see things from a total different light. He couldn't because he saw it for what it was. Like I saw it for what it was, which was a good thing for once because usually he says, now Tina, it's not that. But this time he saw it for what it was. Right? And so I think that was the challenge. And then when we talk about health, girl, I lost my hair. People don't know this, but you're going to know now. I lost my hair. I had a big patch in the front of my head and the back, stress. I wasn't sleeping. Wow. And I've always had thick, healthy hair. I lost my hair. Thankfully, I had enough to pull it over, right? And then I got weave. So everybody said, oh my goodness, your hair is so cute. So that was the norm for me. So nobody knew. I suffered with vertigo. My doctor was sick and tired of seeing me. Oh, wow. Insomnia. I was becoming so stressed of my role, just being in a place that I shouldn't be in, that it made me sick. And so me being sick, me being stressed, what do you think what happened when I got home?
What's a toll on your husband?
Exactly, because he couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
He couldn't fix it, but he knew that I wanted a role as such, so he didn't tell me to walk away. So it was 12 months in, and a certain situation took place, and, you know, I was privy to allowing my husband to even overhear what had happened. because it was on the telephone. And that was the moment where he knew himself. It was time. It was either that or I get sick or he be visiting me somewhere where I shouldn't have been, where I work out of. So we had to make that decision. But you know what? On the flip side of that, it took me a while to get through that and over that because I felt like I failed our community. But now, and it's been for a while, God allowed that. Why? Because it got me in a position where for years I've worked with women, professional women, and I've heard the stories, I've heard the cries, I've heard how they've managed or not in a marriage and or in the working environment. I've heard all this stuff that they endure by colleagues and bosses and board members, and I've heard all these stories.
Yeah.
But I know now God allowed me to be in that role so that I can personally relate. Not only did I experience domestic violence, not only did I grow up in a time where I saw conflict, many of us did in our culture, but I also now was sitting around the table and personally experienced it. So now when I sit with people, I honestly can say, I understand. Before I'll say, I understand, but how can we do this? Now I say, oh my goodness, I understand.
Yeah.
So how can we do this so you don't lose your hair like I did?
Got you. No, I totally get that. And I think the flip side to what you're saying now and understanding where you're coming from, and a lot of people don't understand that perspective. They have this kind of judgmental view because even in your bio, it says you chose to walk away from a job that you wanted to save your marriage and for your health. So what do you say to people who don't get that and don't agree with, and not saying that they have to agree with your decisions, but don't agree with your decision to walk away from a job that at the time thought was, the holy grail to save your marriage?
Well, so one of the things I do is help you not to do what I had to do. If I had planned it better, if I had the tools, if I knew what to expect, I probably wouldn't have taken the job from the beginning. But I did. So for people that's experiencing that now, I don't tell everybody to walk away because everybody don't have that entrepreneurial spirit. Everybody's not like me, would jump without a parachute. That's me. So how do you manage? You have to sit back and really think about how is this impacting you?
Yeah.
Right? And remember that if you're married or in a committed relationship, you have to now do some reassessing. What does that relationship look like? Because you need that blow. Like when you get that blow, you need that cushion. Where's that cushion coming from? Yeah, you can see a therapist, you can see a coach like people see me, but you also, when you go home and lay your head down, you want that cushion to be that cushion. And you want that person next to you, you want them to be the cushion too.
Absolutely.
And so I say, start there. You don't have to leave. But if you're like me and you believe God's got a greater calling on your life, do what you have to do. But don't do it because somebody else tells you to do it. Don't do it because that was my stance. Do it because you feel this is what you've been called to do. Absolutely. For me, I knew I wasn't supposed to be there the third month in. I never felt like I belonged. I walked around there every day, never felt it, never. And I said, Lord, why aren't I feeling this? And now, a year later, I said, wow, okay, Lord, now I get it. Like I get why I was there. I get that I'm going to help other people now.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And also, there are so many more things for me to do that I see that I wouldn't have never been able to do in any of these spaces, right? And so... so I'm very happy about taking that opportunity. I'm happy that I listened to two of my close girlfriends that are in HR, two both in businesses, successful businesses. Just stick it out for a year. And I was like, it's killing me, I don't know. With everything that was going on with it. I see now that made sense to me. It made sense to me because now I'm better equipped. I saw other women had talked to me in those spaces. And said, Tina, oh my God, just hearing these stories. I've sat around boardrooms. I've seen people show up in certain environments and be cruel. I've seen people, and not cruel because they wanted to. Sometimes it's cruel because you don't know no better.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from when you leave home, you bring a lot of your mass work. So back to why is it important that if you're in a marriage and you're in a leadership role or you're leading somebody else's life, you need to make sure you have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan to succeed, what happens? You fail. So for me, that role taught me how to be the better me. That role helped me to understand other leaders in these positions. That role helped me to get into all the homes in Bermuda, all over the world, Berlin, Switzerland, London, the homes that I get into virtually. Praise God for that. But that will help me to now sit right next to somebody to say, I understand. And experiencing it, I can say, this is what you can do next or not do. So for me, I am credited to that because I say, Lord, thank you. That's all I can say. I didn't understand it, but I don't argue. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I totally understand that. And I think we're in a time now where we hear these things that women should or can have it all, right? And so sometimes a feminist and, can look and say, I can't believe she left her job for her marriage. You should be able to do both. Your husband should understand. But given the context of what you've said here today, like, what is your hope that people will take from your decision to do what you did?
Well, one, I'm here to help you so you don't have to do it. That's one. But two, follow your heart. Follow your life. And what I mean by that is, if it's killing you, it's not worth it. How many people have had heart attacks and lost their lives because they've been stressed? I have a girlfriend that lost her life from being so stressed out on her job in a leadership position. There are many people. So there's a lot of reasons why I do what I do, right? Yeah. But there are many people that are going to work for the sake of money. I make all this money and my lifestyle goes with it. So how can I leave? Well, I'll tell you what, your health is more important. So my health took precedent. My marriage, that person that God said, this is your person and he is my person, that took precedent. Because even though people look and say, my husband would never tell me what to do. Well, if that's your partner, what is a partnership? Right. So if you are in partnership, both of you, either or, should feel the disconnect. And then you should be like a scale. You start tilting. Something's off. You don't want to tilt it. You want to be balanced. Right. And so for me, I looked at it as that. I also looked at people don't realize it's family, it's children. What would that do to our children if me or anybody else is selfish enough to say, I'm making $10 a month, right? And I used to make $4, right? And the heck with him or her, I'm divorcing them because if I divorce them, I can make even more. What happens to the children? What happens to the family? Everything's disconnected, right? So everybody suffers. So if we can prevent that, let's prevent it. We look and say as black women, yes, me too. Many of us, I watched my mama work 3 and 4 jobs all my life. That's why I made a decision that I wasn't going to do that, right? But many of us black people, we had to fight. We've been fighting since the picking cotton. Honestly,
you ain't telling the
warehouses, right? I mean, think of our grandparents and my mom, my dad, everybody who work. And their idea of success is working to make sure you can pay your bills. That's not my idea of success. So when people look at me, I've had people say, you're crazy. I literally resigned the year I turned 50. Wow. And I made a decision that it wasn't about my age, because that's not my age, as my bishop would say, right? But 50 to me was the time, the moment for me to just flourish. I go 53 this year, and there is no regrets I have in my life. There's no regrets. Yeah. And once I decided that was what I wanted to do, that's what I've been doing ever since. And so when I go into organizations to help, people say it all the time, you're the person to call. They say, how are you so good at what you do? Well, I grew up back a time, so check this out. I grew up, and I was very combative. Yeah. So you learn those things from your grandparents. You learn those things from your parents. There's nobody exempt from seeing an argument with your parents. You say that, I'm going to help you out here because you're telling that's untrue. I can say a lie is untrue. But I think for me, I learned it and I mastered it. How can we get better at this? So when I go and work in environments with mediation, I just love the understatement. I love what I do. When I work with couples and have to manage the conflict, I love what I do. I can do it with my eyes closed. So that's how I know I'm called to do what I do. So when I look back at the year, May 21st, 2021, I think I resigned. That was the day I resigned, 3:00. How do I know? Because I was very intentional. I resigned at that time, and at that moment, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that when I walked away, I was going to be doing more than what I could ever do in that role. Wow. So that's why I did what I did, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity, right? Because it allowed me to help other people. Initially, I felt bad and guilty that I wasn't helping the community. That's domestic violence and the various little things that I used to deal with there. What I dealt with there was like a quarter of what I deal with. No, right? And so I look at it and say, wow, am I making? But guess what? That's the best decision I could have made, taking that role and every other role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do want to go back just a little bit. So you spoke about helping women in leadership positions, right? And so what we're seeing now in trends of women is a lot more women moving into middle management and leadership positions. But what we are also seeing on the flip side of that are marriages not succeeding in those same veins, right? And a lot of times these women are women, we're in a position right now where women are out earning men, right, in certain spaces. And sometimes what we're also seeing with that is those marriages are not lasting because the women may not feel that, you know, the man is being a man and not upholding their side of the bargain. And then the flip side of that is the man might be a bit intimidated by that. Like, what advice do you kind of give to women who are pursuing their careers, excelling in their careers, but their partner may not be excelling at the same same pace as them? How do we combat this trend of divorce that we're seeing with successful Black women in particular, that are divorcing at a really rapid rate?
Yeah, it is. One of the things I often say is, let's not compare each other, right? Sometimes why people divorce, it's not because she got promoted. It's not because she's making more money. They were divorced way before she even got the job. It was just functioning. They was just living together.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes there are people that got married that wasn't even meant to be married. But I'm going to make this work. We have children or a child or all those things. Some people just wait until the children's out of the home. It's so many reasons why people don't work. And there are some relationships that you can work with that's no abuse in sight, right?
Yeah.
That they were never in love from the beginning. So you can't force people to fall in love. But what I say is if two people are intentional and they really want this marriage to work and they love each other in spite of the differences, that's a situation you can work out. But if two people don't love each other and they didn't love each other, they don't even like each other, is it worth really holding on to something that is not there? And in some instances, I would say absolutely if you both want it. But if it's only one, relationships are two, right? Nowadays it's 3, 4, right? So we're not going to talk about them.
We're not going to go there. That's a different conversation.
That's a whole, but that's a real conversation even in Bermuda.
True. It's very, very true.
But I say if two people decide to stand before God and say, oh, I do for the rest of our lives, so death do us part, right? If you do that, there's something there. Try it at least. I have couples where they were going to divorce and now they aren't divorcing. So I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely.
And then I say, Lord, I'm doing my job. I don't know what you give me, but you're giving me something to do, right? So, and then I've had people that really say, you know what? I don't think we even liked each other from the beginning. And we only got married because we was pregnant. Or we got married because we went to school, we came back, we were both successful.
Yeah.
He lost his job. You understand? So sometimes people look and say, you know, I'm making $10 and he's making $3. What good is he to me? Well, then you have to wonder, what is your marriage built on? Is it because he makes $3 or is it because you just don't love him or you lot don't get along? Because really, like I said about that pillar, my husband's my cushion. So rather my husband came in with $3 or 4, I know that my husband will work 24 hours a day to make sure that I'm okay. You understand? I know that no matter what I need, he'll make it happen. So I don't care if I want to retire my husband. People laugh when I say it. I want to retire my husband because my husband's been a mayor and sent me to school and done all sorts of supported our family. So I want to retire him. What people going to say then? Right?
They'll have something to say, but that's your business.
But guess what? That for me, that would be an opportunity where we could do more together. While I'm traveling and doing what I have to do, right? We could do more together. So that's just my thought process, right? Having that cushion, having that supporter, But what happens when you find those couples that the guys feel intimidated? Well, sometimes I'm not really intimidated. That's what we women say. Right? You're intimidated because of this. Oh, yeah, maybe you're jealous. And that's true. Sometimes they're jealous. But I think if you include that partner, because like we say, it's both men and women that experience this. If you include your partner along the way, it's not going to be a year in and you decide I'm getting a promotion, I want a divorce because you don't agree. You have never included him. Sometimes we get in these spaces and we see successful men and women and feel like they're better because in the career, they're more successful. So now you start connecting, you're with them more. So now you start looking at your partner like his last stand or she's last stand because she doesn't have this, she doesn't sit in the boardroom with her spike heels or she doesn't boss around a team. She's just her and being a housewife. You're right. I
heard the I heard it.
Right. And so I think it all depends on that couple. How much do you want this? You know, how much do you respect each other as a couple? You know, how much do you respect your family and children? Some couples are together because of their children. And I think that's a blessing sometimes in disguise because sometimes you could lose your way. But then you remember what was the family.
What the core is, yeah. Absolutely.
So I think it's important. But overall, when people say, I have a couple that I worked with no longer, thankfully they're doing well. She was convinced that he was insecure, jealous, and so many other things. But come to find out, He wasn't any of those things. He just felt like he was never included.
Wow.
He just felt like, he didn't mind her. He was proud of her that she was in the role in which she was in. And financially, they were fine. So he was happy about that. What he didn't like was her turn. What he didn't like was what I know, too, to be coming home and falling asleep. What he didn't like is the stresses and that he couldn't help her with it. So now he became the problem, too. So that's what tends to happen a lot of times. That partner, whomever that partner is that's not in that role with you, they become the problem because now you can't fix it.
Wow. I'm like blown away. Because obviously I'm not married. That's clear. All my readers know that. Listeners know that. But you see a lot of things, right? Like you have friends who are married. My parents are still married. Well, my dad and my stepmom are still married. My uncles, my grandparents, all of that type of stuff. But you don't always see in those settings what it took to stay married, right? So hearing these types of things and how to work through that is definitely, I think, very valuable. But obviously we've gone back into the relationship very, very heavy, but looking back at everything that you've accomplished, also you look amazing for your age, by the way. I had no idea.
Thank you. No stress.
So there you go. No stress. So looking at everything that you've accomplished and everything that you've been through and not having any regrets, when you look back on your life and you are no longer here, very long time from now, but very long. What do you want people to say about Tina? What do you want to be remembered for based on all the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so to be honest, I have no interest in what people say. Really, I just want to leave a legacy for my grands because I have grandchildren and my children, right? And even when they have children, grand, that don't even know me, I want them to be able to say the type of person that Nana was, right? The person that would drop and do anything. My family always comes first. So that's something that I want to instill in them. And, when you put your family first, everything else naturally falls behind, right? And so I think what's important and what many of us forget is that family sure come first, right? But we get in our careers, and let me go back to this. We get in our careers as black women, right? Or up against black men or even white men or different cultures, period. We have something to prove. Right? And so we lose our way sometimes. We get so focused on, I'm going to prove a point, that we become this hard person sitting in a boardroom or hard person, I'm going to prove one, that we go home proving our point to our partner.
Wow. And
forgetting that the in-laws like, who's this? They don't even know who we are. So I say all that to say, my legacy is that I'm teaching my children, my grandchildren, and everybody that falls behind how to love, how to put each other first. If you're able, and put God first. If you're able to do that, God will work everything else out. It's not that you're not going to have bumps along the way, because I've had many bumps. However, you want to be able to appreciate those bumps. You want to be able to sit back and say, okay, Lord, now I understand why it was painful. Why did you have me good? But this is why. So my legacy would always be that I've left a legacy for my children to know family first, love first, put God first, and everything else will come behind it. That's supposed to be behind it.
Wow, I love that. Well, thank you, Tina, so much for spending some time with me today. I really do appreciate it. Now, anyone who's watching the podcast in this episode right now, or they're listening, what is the best way to get in contact with you should they want to avail of your services?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Or you can just look me up at my website. You can either get me at tinalawsconsultant.com or you can get me at the Love Compass, LUV. Compass.net. Or you can call me at 441-538-8857. Email tinalawsconsultant@gmail.com or the Love Compass Coach at gmail.com. Like, I'm just everywhere, on social media, which I'm.
And we'll tag you in this when it goes up.
Yes, absolutely. So, I'm here. I'm between here and London. My grandchildren in London, my daughter, and I also have clients in London.
Okay.
Speaking engagements. So I'm just doing. So if they want me, they better catch me quick.
Yes, there you go. There we go. We love to hear it. Well, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Totally appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, my dear.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys. We just had an amazing episode with Tina Laws, who dropped some amazing gems for us, whether you're in the beginning part of your journey as a couple or as a woman in leadership, and you're a bit more senior in that. We've got some amazing advice from her today on how to navigate through these things in our relationships, but also in our careers as well. She dropped some gems for us around her own personal struggles and the things that she has gone through and how she's overcome them as well. So guys, head over to the website, hustlehardpodcast.com. Make sure you can read the blog that will be up will be up about Miss Tina Laws, and then you can also find some additional information about how to get in contact with her should you wish to avail of her services while she's available, honey, because she is booked and busy. All right. As always, thank you for spending some time with me today on Hustle Her Podcast.